In this video, we are going to talk about proofs of triangle congruence. So meaning we are comparing two triangles and how will we be able to determine if the two triangles are congruent. So since triangles has angles and sides, we're going to be using those two characteristics or properties of triangles to determine how are two triangles congruent. So let's, in this problem right here, for problem number 1, we are given that segment PQ is congruent to segment ST. We're going to write that as our first statement. PQ congruent to segment ST, and obviously that is going to be given. Then we are going to look at the given illustration. So PQ is this side of the figure, and that is congruent to ST. The second given is segment QR is congruent to segment TR. And again, that is given. In the figure, that is this side of the triangle, and it is congruent to segment TR. So the tick marks determines or will help us identify quickly which side is congruent to what side. So the number of tick marks are important. Now, we are given with third information, and that will go in our number 3 statement. So R is the midpoint of segment PS. So it is also given. Now, given this information, R is the midpoint of segment PS, and that PS is up in this side of this triangle, the two triangles. So then therefore, we should be able to conclude that segment PR is congruent to segment RS, because the word midpoint is giving us an idea that these two segments are the segment PS is divided into two equal segments or sides of the triangle. So then we can say in statement number 4 as segment PR congruent to segment RS. And we know that they are congruent because of the concept of midpoint. And so our reason for number 4 is going to be definition of midpoint. Now, in proving that the two triangles are congruent, we need to have 3 informations, 3 congruent parts of a triangle. So number 1 statement, we have congruent sides. So this is the first one. Number 2, congruent sides as well. That's the second congruent statement. Number 3, we see congruent symbol, and so that is number 3 congruent part of the triangle. So since we already have 3 congruent parts of the triangle, therefore the two triangles are congruent. So going back to what we were supposed to prove, the two triangles PQR are congruent because of side triangle congruence. If you look at what we have on the statement, we have sides, this is side, and this is also side, and this is side. If we are going to go over the figure, we have marked all sides of the figure as well. So that's another way to double check how we can determine which triangle congruence we can use as a reason why the two triangles are congruent. So SSS, triangle congruence. Let us try another problem. Okay. In this problem, we are given with 2 given. First, we have segment JL congruent to segment NM. Let's locate that in the figures. So JL is congruent to MN. Number two, okay, so that is given. The second given is K is the midpoint of segment JN and segment LM, and that is also given. Now, there's nothing else that we can refer to but use number two statement in order for us to be able to give the remainder of the statements. So we are introduced of the word midpoint. So we're going to use that in order to arrive with the next statement. So we have here K in the middle, and that is the midpoint of JN. So JN is this whole segment right here. And if K is the midpoint, then therefore JK is congruent to segment KN. And I am going to write that as our number three statement. Segment JK is congruent to segment KN. And we know that these two sides or parts of the triangle, the two triangles, are congruent because of the concept of midpoint. Therefore, we will say definition of midpoint. Now, going back to number two. Remember, we have two segments here that wherein K is the midpoint. The other one is LM. So LM, which is this part of the figure, that would mean that wherein K is also the midpoint. So then therefore, LK is congruent to segment KM. So we will say segment LK is congruent to segment KM, and the reason is going to be definition of midpoint as well. And if you have noticed, we have now three congruent parts of the triangles. And so number one, we have side, which is number one, congruent segments. Number three, we also have sides, congruent segments. And then the third and congruent part is number four, and they are also congruent parts. So then therefore, number five is going to be triangle JKL is congruent to triangle NKM by side triangle congruence. All right, let us do another problem. Let's try this one right here. Okay, so first we are given with segment JM, which is congruent to LN, and that this is given. The second statement is an angle, so that is angle JMN. I'm going to locate JMN, and so we are focusing on the middle letter, which is this specific angle. And that angle is congruent to angle LNM. LNM. And it is referring to this angle right here, meaning these two angles are congruent. So we have, and the reason for that is going to be given. Now we need to find third information. We have two congruent parts of this triangle. We have one, so this is side. Number two, this is an angle. Now we need to have third information. Looking at the figure, they have a common side, and that common side is this middle side of this figure, this middle side, which is the diagonal, the common side of both triangles. So then therefore we can use that as our third information, and that would be segment MN congruent to itself. So if you may recall, if you look, if we are going to make sense of the problem or this information, if you look at yourself in the mirror, you see yourself. Of course, that is what we call our reflection. So in this case, remember the word reflection. So if it's exactly the same, we're not going to say reflection as our reason, but we will use reflexive property. So reflexive property. And so this will make up our third congruent part, and that is side as well. So then because we have three congruent parts of the two triangles, then therefore we then can say that the two triangles are congruent. So triangle JMN is congruent to triangle LNM by, if you take a look, we did not put some mark on here, but this is congruent to itself, so that would make it side angle side. So the reason why the two triangles are congruent, it is going to be side angle side triangle congruence. All right, I hope you find value in this video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.